I guess we should get this party started, right? So I remember saying to my buddy Will, he left his kids and his wife in the car while he went into the party. You gotta be kidding me. And right as the words came out of my mouth, I started to laugh and think about the character of Alfred. Now, Alfred is probably one of the most loyal, reliable friends that you could ever imagine. He says he's going to be at the party. He's at the party. You have a party and you plan everything. You can ensure, like in your mind, you know that no matter what is going on, come rain, shine, earthquake, whatever it is, Alfred is going to be there. And he's not only going to be there, he's going to be 1,000% present. He's going to be contributing to everybody. He's going to be cooking. I mean, the guy is one of the best chefs that you could ever imagine. And so I started to almost get mad at myself of like, why would you even question that he would go to our buddy Andie's 40th birthday party, bring his family down? He's got 4 kids. They would all be in the car in the parking lot. And his wife would say, no, you go in, baby, have a great time. I'll take care of the kids. We'll just sit out here. And literally his kids and his wife were in the parking lot in the car. Now, some of us could think, wow, that is so crazy, but it's so consistent with Alfred's character. And his character, and like literally, he's the most reliable guy that we could ever imagine. And as I sat down today, there have been some things that have been going on in my life that, challenges, things like that. And God asked me, he's like, have you looked at my character? Have you reviewed back? I would just like you to stop for a second. I'm not going to give you any signs. I'm not going to give you any, things moving forward. What I want you to do is I want you to stop. I want you to take a breath and I want you to evaluate my character. You see, with Alfred, when I heard of him leaving his kids and his wife in the car to go into a party, and then I stopped for a second and I thought about it. I was like, wow, that is the most consistent thing with who he is. And with God, what he was saying is the exact same thing today, that if you go back and you look at the receipts, you go back and look at the history, you go back at the fact that I've never forsaken you, I've never taken you to this place and then just dropped you off. So why do you think that I would do it now? And when things don't make any sense, when we're at that place where we think, oh my gosh, I'm at the end of my rope. What God was saying today is the end of your rope is where mine begins. And in Proverbs 9, it serves as a reminder that the voice of wisdom and the voice of foolishness sound very similar. So that is why it's so important to study his character so the difference will be clear as day. So why don't we get this party started?
Nothing more on my mind. I got 2 shines, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
Sometimes the hardest thing in the world is to be able to take a story, an inspiration that God gives me in the morning, and turn it into something that will actually make sense. As I was sitting down this morning and doing what I call morning pages. So morning pages is you take your notebook out and literally right when you wake up, you just write 3 pages and let your mind go to exactly where you want it to go, and just kind of flow. And don't put any judgment on yourself, anything like that, but just write out 3 pages. And that's what I have the tendency to do. I dump my brain and, it clears my mind, clears my spirit a bit. And it's incredible. And as I sat down, he started to reveal to me about the character of my buddy, Alfred. And you know, I was wondering, God, how are you going to bring this around? How are you going to connect this thing? And as I thought about my buddy Alfred, like literally in our friend group, we got about 15 people in our friend group, and I would say, honestly, probably when I say probably, that he's the most reliable guy that you can ever imagine. If he says he's going to be somewhere, he's going to be there. You plan an event, he's going to be there. I mean, there's been very few times where he's not been able to, and it's because like there's absolutely no way that he could get to the spot. And so when Alfred shows up, or when he shows himself to be reliable, or when we think, oh, we don't know if he's coming, it's almost like we don't question because we look back at all the receipts, we look back at all the history of him, and the guy is just an example to all of us as far as how a friend can be, how a friend should be. And, we're all inspired by him. The guy is unbelievable. My son was just talking about him the other day. Alfred, we absolutely love you. My son was asking, hey, when are we going to go to Uncle Alfred's house? Because he's one of the best chefs in the world. He made my son some bacon, and he sat with him and showed him exactly how to do it. And my son recites it to me to this day, especially when I'm making bacon and I'm not making it as good as Uncle Alfred. So thank you so much there, because my son is judging me, Alfred. But as I go through these things with these morning pages or writing or spending time with the Lord, it's funny because it's never systematic. Like I can't like rely on God to deliver the exact same message. And this was a thing that Pastor Jason Graves was talking about yesterday. When we try, as we will, when we try and systemize God, he almost laughs at us. And he wants us to understand there's going to be a personal relationship with him, and personal meaning that it's going to be signature to every single one of us, as opposed to us trying to say, hey, I'm going to do this thing so I get this result. God's saying, like, just spend time with me. And in spending time with him this morning, he just brought to mind Alfred and his amazing, amazing, amazing character. And I want to thank you, Alfred. As we go through today, there's an episode of INCHSTONES. So INCHSTONES is 15 to 20 minutes. You can listen to it on your walk, but it's meant to be able to fill up your soul and give you something to think about throughout the day. We also have an interview show where I interview some of the most iconic people in the world, and they give advice to my kids by name. And then I have a show that's called You Have to Meet My Friends. And I go live and I call my friends randomly, and they don't know they're on the podcast till they're on the podcast. This has caused some challenges in my relationships and my friendships, because a lot of my friends, they'll answer the phone, and then I could tell they're timid, and they're like, "Are you recording?" I'm like, No, I'm not recording. But there are times where I catch them that way. Also, want to invite you to our men's group Tuesday mornings at 8:30 to 9:30, or 7:30 to 8:30 here in Carlsbad every week. So I'd encourage you to be there. It's unbelievable. So as we jump into Proverbs 9, it serves as a reminder that the voice of wisdom and the voice of foolishness sound very similar. So that's why it's so important to study his character, so the difference will be as clear as day. And this was the thing with Alfred, because when I study his character, when I look over the course of our friendship, and it's not to say that Alfred is perfect or anything like that, but he's a damn good friend. And when I look at him in that scenario, if I ever question, is Alfred going to show up? All I have to do is go back to his character and look at it and be like, I'm good, And this is where, when circumstances seem bleak, or things seem to, one thing piling on top of another in your life, as far as circumstantially, what God wants you to know is that he's not as concerned with giving you a sign now so you look forward. He's saying, like, stop for a second, take a breath, and think back of all the places where I've blessed you. Think about all the places where I've brought so many things, where I've delivered you, where I've, helped you in so many different ways. And when we start to do that, it starts to give us a little bit of solace. And so he's not asking us to step out in faith or walk in this blind faith. He's saying, no. The faith that I'm asking you to walk in has been proven over years and years and years, and generations and generations and generations of truth, and me staying relentlessly consistent with the character that I've told you about and the truth that I talk about and the truth that I give you. So this was kind of a smack in the face for me because there are times where I'm going through something, you know, and I'll ask God like, "Oh my gosh, will you just give me a nod, give me a sign, whatever it is?" And not to say that He won't, but He's saying like, "Are you joking me? Like, are you kidding right now? Why don't you go back and look at all the amazing things that have happened?" And when I look at those things, you know, I remember praying before we left Las Vegas, and it didn't make any sense for us to leave Las Vegas at the time. This was 12 years ago, but my wife wanted to raise the kids by the water. We wanted to raise our kids here in Southern California. And so it was literally like in the middle of the night. I didn't even tell my accountant that I was moving to California because when you own a business and you move to California, it's probably not the smartest thing in the world. And, but what God told me at that time is if you will focus on your family, I'll take care of everything else. And it was like one thing after another. And it wasn't just this boom, this magic beans or this puff of smoke, and then everything was fine. It was inch stone by inch stone by inch stone by inch stone. I look back and I'm like, wow, there was a milestone. So I want to encourage you right now, if you're going through something and the circumstances seem bleak, you want to give up, you're at the end of your rope, that's where God's rope starts. And although it's challenging at times because I want His rope and my rope to be consistent. Like I want to be able to hold on to mine still and then hold on to His. And He's saying, no, I want you to step out in faith, but that faith is rooted and grounded in truth and in consistency and in the history of what I've done in the past. So just walk with me. So in Proverbs 9, it's actually interesting because it is the shortest proverb in all of Proverbs. It's short, it's to the point, it's all meat. And I used to get confused by it because at the beginning of it was, wisdom calling out to everyone, and it identified itself, right? So it identified itself, it said its characteristics, and then it said, I'm calling out to everybody and, everyone at once, and I'm doing it in the loudest places. In the middle of it, from verse 7 through 12, it talked about the ultimate cheat code. And the ultimate cheat code was, it talked about, if you correct someone who's foolish, they won't respond to you. And then if you correct somebody who is ready for that correction, then they'll be wiser still and they'll thank you for it. And I was like, this is so confusing. And then it said afterwards, the only way that you'll know the beginning of all wisdom is the fear of God. So when you spend time with Him, He'll be able to decipher all these things. Well, this was kind of confusing because it was like, rebuke someone or tell them they're wrong and they're just think that you're awful and they won't listen to you. Tell someone they're wrong and then they'll listen to you. So it said those two things, but then it gave the ultimate cheat code, and that's just spending time with Him and having a personal relationship with Him. So you know exactly what to say at the right time to the right person, right? And that's the only way that we can do it. And at the end, it finished up with that foolishness is calling out, and everyone, and it has identified itself, and it's calling out to everyone. Now, doesn't that sound very similar to what it started with? Wisdom is calling out and calling to everyone at the highest places in the city, and this was what foolishness was doing. And then what was great about it is what God revealed is like the middle of it was the cheat code: spend time with Him. So when you spend time with Him, you'll be able to see wisdom, you'll be able to see foolishness, and you'll be able to notice it from a mile away based off the characteristics, based off the history, based off the things that you know to be true. And the results of them, because if you watch foolishness for long enough, you'll see all the silly stuff that happens and all the silly results. You watch wisdom for long enough, you'll see the great things that happen. And so this brought me back to ALFRED and my friendship with ALFRED because, if there was ever a question, like when I questioned, he left his kids and his wife in the car to go in a parking lot to be able to go to the party. And when people came out of the party, his kids and his wife were in the car in the parking lot. That was consistent with ALFRED's character. Now, some people are going to be judging and saying, oh my gosh, he's, why would he ever do it? His wife understood. Like his wife said, no, you go in, I'll watch the kids. And so this was incredible. And so in Proverbs 9, it was a sandwich. Like here's wisdom, here's all the characteristics, here's foolishness, here's all the characteristics. And in between was, here's the little cheat code or the coder ring, or the glasses that you could put on to be able to see foolishness from a mile away or see wisdom from a mile away. Just study the characteristics, study the history of it. And when you look at that, it makes things very simple. See, with Alfred, if I ever question, I just go back and study his history. This puts my mind at ease. No matter the circumstances, I know that I can count on him. This was built over time. Consistency creates hope. Hope delivered creates faith. And when faith is in question, I study the history of the character. Just as in the instance of Alfred, God is not asking us to believe in something that is just a theory. He has put the work in. He has worked tirelessly to establish his character, and he has stayed relentlessly committed to the consistency of the truth that he embodies. This way, when the circumstances seem bleak, the odds are stacked against you, he is not asking you to walk in faith without generations of proof that he will deliver. He is calling you to remember how many times he has delivered you in the past. Sometimes he is taking you to the end of your rope because that's the only place where his truly begins. See, I want to thank you, Alfred. I want to thank you for your friendship. I want to thank you for your example. A lot of times you don't realize how much of an impact that you have on other people. And I watch Alfred. I watch him as a father. I watch him as a husband. I watch him as a friend. The dude is consistent. I mean, he is one of the most solid individuals that you'll ever meet. And hopefully someday you'll be able to meet Alfred, because this guy honestly will inspire you. He'll make you laugh. He's probably one of the funniest guys ever too. And he's a man of few words, but all of those words deliver, I mean, on a level that you couldn't even imagine. And as I sat today and as circumstances, pile up, or, I was talking with my buddy, John. He's a neighbor of mine. And John, I want to thank you. The other day we sat at the dog park and he asked me some questions. He said, there's so many things that I want to know. He said, I listen to the podcast all the time, and, you talk about a lot of positive things, but I have a lot of questions. And then I got the chance to be able to sit down and tell him. And he said, has there ever been a time where your faith has been shaken? And I said, absolutely. But when I go back, and this, I didn't even realize that we were having this conversation. But when I go back and I realize how many times I've been kicked in the head, but God has lifted me up. I've been kicked while I was down, and he's lifted me up. And he said, well, what are you talking about? And I talked about the times during the pandemic where all of our businesses were non-essential. I mean, I was diversified, but all my diversification was every single thing was non-essential. So my speaking career, my consulting, the salons, all those things were all non-essential, and they all went away right away. And then other things happened during those times that you would have thought, oh my gosh, is everything raining down on me? Can I just get a break? But I went back to God's character and said, how many times have you delivered me? How many times have I been down? How many times has this happened? And me think like, oh my gosh, if one more thing happens, this is going to be even more challenging. And then God delivers, and he gives that little breath of fresh air. And he's been consistent throughout time. And so the more and more that I study his character, the more and more proof that he gives me that the faith that he asked me to have is not just some blind faith, and not some place where I go in my head and say, oh my gosh, lofty as far as just, I just believe because I need to believe. No, you could go back and you can believe based off of concrete evidence. And so that's, John, I want to thank you for asking the questions, because, it meant a lot to me to be heard. But I want every one of you to hear the fact of how incredible Alfred is. My friend Alfred, where, again, when I laughed at that first statement, his kids and his wife are sitting in the car. Are you kidding me? And then I thought, that's exactly consistent with who Alfred is, because no matter what the circumstance, no matter where we're at, no matter what we're doing, Alfred is the first one to show up. So I want to thank you guys again for tuning into another episode of INCHSTONES. Do this. The greatest compliment that you could ever give is to share it with a friend, share it with somebody who is going through a trial, going through fire right now, and thinking that they're at the end of their rope, and just encourage them right now that at the end of your rope is where God's begins. So it's been Proverbs 9, another episode of INCHSTONES. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over.